You're listening to a Meatsmith Harvest. This is the podcast that encourages and equips you to grow your home around the harvest. This Farmstead Meatsmith production is made possible by you. If you like it, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/Meatsmith and donating at a level you'd enjoy giving at. Your gift helps us increase the quality and quantity of all our free media education. Thank you, and happy harvesting. Hello, Meatsmiths.
Good morning. This is the podcast on the philosophy of butchery.
That's right.
There is a philosophy of butchery.
Is there?
Yeah.
Yes. There is. I've heard you talk about it many times in our classes. It's sort of like the intro to all of our classes.
Yeah.
How to approach butchery.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about a few other housekeeping items first?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's.
Speaking of classes, let's talk about classes.
Yes.
So we added another class opportunity in June, a family pig. And it's wide open. April and May are booked solid. I think there might be one spot left in April. So if you've got a last minute hankering to join us next month, please do. Mm-hmm. They are so fun, especially when they're full. So there's 7 people and maybe a couple observers. It really it's a lot of fun. So, but June is wide open and it's at a great location. The slaughter day is going to be on a farm here on Vashon Island, and then the butchery and cure and sausage days will be here in our shop. So identical content. I think it's almost an added bonus to be able to see this farm on Vashon that we're friends with. So Circle Rock Ranch, you could look it up. That's where the slaughter day will be at. But he helps us put together a fine meal at the end of that day, and
then the following 2 days will be here in the shop.
That's right. Yeah. So sign up for classes if you can. And membership, good things happening in membership too. We have our web developer I mentioned last time. He is still working on our forum, fast and furious. It's happening. We've got a new interface that's lined up. So I think we'll be able to roll it out in the coming month. And again, that's the best way to really meet people across the English-speaking world that are wrestling with the same issues that you are with your meat processing. We started backlogging in the forum all of the Facebook content from our private Facebook table, or our private Facebook group called Meatsmith Table, which is that's a gold mine in and of itself. And if you didn't want to just scroll through 2 years of content there, you can look at it in the forum because it's all there, like
it's organized
topically.
There.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a new development. And what else is happening in our membership right now?
Well, the forum is being rejuvenated. Did you just say that?
I just said that. Yeah, you were okay.
Yeah, which is awesome.
What kind of conversations are happening in Meatsmith Table right now? Anything that you can...
We just talked about blood, the use by date thereof.
Okay.
You know, blood is one of those things that's highly perishable, and you catch it on the day of slaughter, right after the kill, and it is the pH of water, and it's full of blood-soluble nutrients. So it's just a petri dish. It's waiting to go off. And so we catch the blood, we stir it so that the coagulants don't turn it into a blood cake, so it stays liquefied. Then we pour it into scrupulously clean jars and refrigerate. And I try to use it within 5 days to make blood sausage.
Right.
Or blood cakes. You can cook them, pretend they're eggs. Cook blood as if it were eggs. It has the same coagulating protein as, eggs, albumin. And so it's very like cooking, whisked, mixed eggs.
Can you freeze blood? Would that even be worth it?
I have never had luck with that. But, I should say, I think I only tried once. So there might be a secret trick I don't know about. But for me, once I tried it once, pulled the blood out, it thawed, and it was separated. The plasma from the magma from
Right.
the, platelets from the dinner plates.
Yeah.
Whatever the constituent parts are. Plasma and the plasma.
You're confusing yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a clear layer on top.
Yes.
And it's flaked. Like it's not a homogeneous blood. It's like if you look real close, there's like blood flakes now after it thaws, which is frustrating to me. And I remember thinking that its coagulating capabilities have been compromised, and I can't even remember if I used it. Mm-hmm. So I have not had luck with the freezing of the blood, but I did only try once.
Yeah.
And then quickly abandoned that, and I've used fresh blood only ever since.
Yeah.
I always it's using things fresh, whatever it is. It works too well to try anything else. It makes everything effortlessly delicious. So I just try to rearrange my whole life around using the fresh ingredient rather than try to make things convenient through freezing and use the previously frozen one. But, there's obviously a limit to that.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's just effortlessly delicious.
Yeah. Cool. So there's membership to sign up. Oh, I just posted a video on bacon mold. You went into great depths last year when we did a video on you talking about bacon mold, and we just finished up like a 7-part series on poultry harvesting.
Right.
There we did a good amount.
Yeah. All on the membership.
Yeah. Of chicken and duck. Slaughter, evisceration, plucking, the kit. You go into a little bit of the kit.
Catching the little dinosaur.
Exactly. All of the stuff that has to do with poultry harvesting. So, that was a great little mini series that we did. I would sign up.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Do. Yeah.
What else are you doing lately?
What else am I doing?
What are you up to?
I've been smoking bacon, which is always nice. The weather is warming. The snow is almost gone except for under the northern parts of the property, northern shades. And I just slaughtered a sow and a humongous sheep.
You did a sow yesterday?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
She was huge.
Oh my gosh.
Not bad. I've done bigger sows, but...
Tell us about what that's like to slaughter a sow.
Well, I was struck this time by the kill is nerve-wracking because you think, wow, big animal, mature, at least 2 years old, which to me means dense bones.
Right.
With age comes density of bones, ossification. And so that always makes you think, gosh, I really hope that bullet penetrates. And so it is a good idea to use full metal jacket rounds if you're going to do a 22 mag on a mature sow or boar. That being said, I've only ever used jacketed hollow points on such creatures, and it's worked. I hit them. You got to hit them in the right spot.
Right.
2.5 to 3 inches above the level of the eyes. But there's this thing about them that makes the shot a little easier, and that their heads are enormous. Huge. Huge. So it's kind of a large target. It probably is deceptive though, because I doubt their brain actually grows, and that's the real target. But it was fine. She was laying down, just looking right at me. She was real calm.
Nice.
Which was great. And then it was, I was outside of the gate, so I got to do one of my favorite things in killing a pig, which is to bench rest my rifle on the fence. You can kind of pick your comfortable spot, and you just get that extra stability of a bench rest. And she ended up hanging at 385 pounds. Bless you. And she was long.
Excuse me.
She was a long pig, very long. But she just fit in my barrel because those 55-gallon drums are magical. It was great. 385 pounds, so her live weight was, excuse me, getting close to 500. She was a big girl.
Why were they getting rid of her? I
don't know. I think she was the biggest pig, honestly, and she was not pregnant. And there were other pigs about that were not quite slaughter weight yet.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
and they have plenty of sows.
Oh, that's
They
right.
were just retiring her, I think.
This is the farm that has like kind of a non-existent breeding plan, so everything is breeding.
Right, which is code for lots of breeding. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
They have not put all of the boars under the knife, and so they are proliferating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
good. She's big, and even big mature pigs, they still scald and scrape just like a younger pig. I guess the only exception would be some boars, particularly on their shoulder plates, where they develop their armor. Those can be extraordinarily unyielding to your scrapeosity, and it's really annoying. So I usually end up scalding and scraping the whole pig, and then when you pull the pig out of the water and you're scraping along, you notice that the hair on the shoulders is just not coming off at all. And so I just scrape everything that will, and then grab the torch and I blast the shoulders with the torch, and I burn the hair off, and then scrape the scurf, and then burn the roots of the hairs that remain, and then scrub that surface. Yeah, that's the hand scraping method for those.
Yeah.
But it was a good day. And, recently I encountered a sheep, and this is something I've never seen before. No matter how many jobs I do, there's always something totally new. This sheep had got stuck upside down.
What?
Yeah, it was really sad.
Aw.
She wasn't obese or like lame in any way. It's just she was corralled nicely, which is perfect, which is what I ask for from all farmers. And unknown to the farmer, I don't know how they would have known, she tipped over.
Oh my gosh.
And she kind of got stuck in a place where the nice, deep, clean bedding had built up against a wall. And it just kind of made this trough there, and she tipped.
Oh.
And so I looked in there. She happened to be in a trailer, and I was like, "Oh, the sheep is upside down. This is not good. This isn't right." And she was still alive, but she was bloating big time.
Oh.
Through her fermenter, in her gut, she is fermenting. She's hosting bacteria that is metabolizing cellulose and producing gas. And it only works if she stands upright. If she's upside down, the gas can't escape, and it's real bad. And they just puff up like a balloon.
Yeah.
And so I was able to deliver the kill pretty easily because she was immobilized. But then I flipped her over, and I kind of pushed on her as if she were a bagpipe, and expelled all of the gas.
Oh my goodness.
It was like a 5-minute burp.
Oh my
She had
gosh.
really, and it's just, I don't know how unless you're checking on the sheep or so often, I don't know how you anticipate
Yeah.
that that's even a possibility.
Could she have
That
been
they
like
will
that?
fall down and not be able to get up.
Do you think she was there all night like that?
I don't know. For a while.
Jeez.
I think she was there for a while. Poor
Darn.
thing. Yeah, that was a bummer.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
I don't think her meat was compromised in any way. Just one of those things that happens.
Darn.
Yeah.
What are our Meatsmith tablers saying? Anything?
Oh, cool.
Got any questions at all? Or
Oh, yes. That is so interesting. Yeah, John mentions helping your family eat meat that they have raised, and maybe you're just starting out and raising your own meat, and your family finds it difficult. They're squeamish about eating the animals that they knew when they were alive. Yeah. That's an interesting one. It's hard for me because I have never, ever struggled with that. Like, even for a second.
you personally?
Yeah, me personally. So it's hard for me to have empathy. But I I might be able to have sympathy, might be able to, relate, because we are conditioned, I think, to regard the animals we raise with tenderness, which is good because that's how you care for them. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe it might help. Actually, I have had a few experiences that I think would be helpful in this regard, is that it is no contradiction or broach of that tenderness to kill the animal. Mm-hmm. And that sounds counterintuitive, but it is absolutely true. It is undeniable. And it would be plainly evident to anyone who has ever been close to, well, maybe it wouldn't be, but it ought to be, who has ever been close to an animal that has died of quote unquote natural causes.
Right.
It's no tenderness. And you have to think about it a little bit, because I know people do this with their dogs a lot, and I don't want to step on too many toes, but I get it. Your pet dog or cat can be waning in health of old age, and some of us are willing to go to significant extremes to keep them alive, even when they might be suffering significantly. And it's tricky to divide, to maybe discern where you're putting your efforts towards caring for the good of the animal or for your own emotional satisfaction. And that's tricky. That's a tricky thing to navigate. When it comes to livestock, though, I have euthanized, as it were, a couple of old animals. And they were already on their way out. That's why I was called. So it wasn't a harvest. It was like a salvage. I was not
like a knacker or something.
Yeah, being a knackerman. Yeah. It was what's the other word? What do vultures do? It was scavenging. Mm-hmm. Something that was already basically dead, but not quite. And there's nothing like getting into those animals, I think, than to read that. There's no better way to read the degree of their suffering than to look inside their bodies, which I have done many times, with like a sheep that's 14 or 15 years old. And again, as a result of a felt fondness for the animal, she was let to live that long, such that she became crippled in her rear end. She couldn't even walk. And that's when they called me, because she couldn't get up anymore. And they wanted to salvage the animal for maybe dog food. And so I got to harvest that ewe. She wasn't even a ewe. She'd never even lambed. So she was restricted in many ways. But she was, it was so sad. I deliver the kill by cutting the throat, and there was just a bare trickle of blood, like a leaky faucet.
Wow.
Which indicates to me her blood pressure was just almost nothing. So blood was not getting to her extremities.
Wow.
So that, I'm sure that didn't feel good. And then I got inside, and it's just like, wow, her organs are rotting inside her body.
Oh, wow.
It even stank, which is kind of crazy to me when you think about it. Like, the insides of animals don't stink.
Right.
They do, if you're not used to that smell. But once you become accustomed to it, you actually come to realize that actually doesn't smell bad, because it's not rotting. And what stinks is dirt, is like true dirtiness, which by that I mean putrefaction. That stinks because it's pathogenic, right? It makes your body thinks that smell means if it gets in any proximity to my mouth, it will precipitate death. But when you're eviscerating animals, there's none of that, healthy animals, because it's very clean. In fact, you're probably soiling it rather than it soiling you, because the insides of their bodies are basically sterile unless you puncture their guts, or they have an infection, or they're super old and they're putrefying from the inside. So I got into this lamb that was technically alive a few minutes ago, and it stunk already, which was just, to me, that was really indicative of what she was going through. She was rotting on the inside already.
That's amazing.
That must have been horrible. Her liver was mush. She wasn't creating blood or filtering all the things the liver does. That was gradually, with inevitable, horrible torturous
Yeah.
march of illness and age was being stripped, function by function from her liver. And at the end of the day, they couldn't even feed the meat to their dog because it reeked. It was as if it had already rotted on the animal. So that's a little vivid, sorry. But all of that to say, it is not a tenderness to keep the animal alive. Which is tricky because what that usually means is you actually, for the good of the animal, not for the good of your emotional well-being, you have to kind of regard it as a self-sacrifice. I'm actually going to sacrifice my comfort level for the good of the animal because I love the animal.
How many people do you know you would say truly share your back to the land values? Or your passion for home-scale craft meat curing? Or simply love the multifaceted beauty of a good meal as obsessively as you do? Maybe a handful? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created an online community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world and a platform for them to learn from and inspire one another. In addition to our major semi-annual hands-on educational event, The Family Pig, here at our Pacific Northwest homestead, over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources years deep now, for you to dive deeper into your food journey with. And both our classes and online program include access to our private community Facebook page for your continued education and fellowship. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you, putting the knife in your hand, article by article, and comment thread by comment thread, and can support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today.
So I see it contingent with, we pick organic feed, we don't let them live in their own fecal matter, and we kill them when they're in the bloom of health.
Yeah.
Those are all motivated from the same place, which is love for the animal. And so if it helps to regard it as I'm going to sacrifice my own likes and dislikes because I love this animal. And then you have the further duty, you could say, or I guess, I love that old phrase, it is altogether fitting and proper. Like in the Gettysburg Address and some of our founding documents, we've lost a notion of abstract proportion that we all agree to. Like, it's fitting and proper. It's symmetrical. It fits.
It's the order.
All right. Yeah. There's something there that matches, and the scales are evened out. And I think that if we regain a sense of that, then you can regard the cooking of the animal as, again, a tribute to that animal.
Yeah.
It is it's a kind of, it's not just a waste to cook their flesh in a way that doesn't taste good, right? That would be a waste. It'd be a waste of protein because you're probably not going to finish the meal because it's all burnt or it's dry or it doesn't taste right. But I think it's a little more than that. It's almost like an insult. It's almost like a blasphemy, or it's a way to profane their sacrifice a little bit, because they did offer their life up as part of this deal that we have with each other. I give you a good life, and then you give me your flesh at the end of that. And the trade-off for them is you don't have to worry about competition or predation. And death by predator is nothing like death by skilled slaughtermen. It's much worse. And minimal competition with other people with other animals in the herd. And I'm going to do everything I can to guarantee that you have safe births and the best food you can find. You don't even have to go look for food, all in exchange for your flesh. And where was I going with that?
When you lay it all out there like that, it sounds like a good deal.
It's kind of a good deal. And
Security.
yeah. And so, right. So that's the kind of the deal. That's the covenant that you make with them. And then, to honor that, you must cook the flesh well. That's part of the deal. You need to execute good cooking. So you don't profane that noble sacrifice, because they are offering, in one sense, in a slightly degraded sense, I think, than humans might, well, definitely, the last full measure of devotion to this deal with us,
Well, it's also diminishing the end of the bargain that you get for yourself, too.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't do all of that hard work and then get nothing for it.
Right. Yeah. It's just to love. You would really feel it. To love an animal into being. By being there at its birth, or even just purchasing it young and then raising it, and then slaughtering it. Loving it into death, and then cooking it, and you can't finish it. It's not good.
Yeah.
That would be.
Okay, so kids
That's
can't...
an affront to the animal.
Yeah. Kids can't understand all of that, though. So, I mean, it's good for us and for, adults listening. How practically would it work? How does it work in our home? That, I guess what I'm saying is, not all of our kids are yet at that place where they eat all of the meat that we cook.
Yeah.
It's just not reality yet. And plus, they have different constitutions and different metabolisms and their own growth development. So... our 2-year-old doesn't quite need all the fat that we need.
Yeah.
So she tends to turn up her nose a little bit at the fat chunks.
Yeah.
Whereas, but our 9, almost 10-year-old, he's doing some good hard work now that he wasn't doing 3 years ago. So I do see an increase in his intake of...
That's very true. Yeah. And I think that is a result of the maturation of his faculty of reason.
That also, right.
He's starting to be able to see the prolonged connection,
Yeah.
rather than just react to the immediate emotional stimulation.
Yes.
Right? He can see, okay, we undergo death for this meal. And then even, I think he even gets the notion of, wow, this texture or this flavor is unfamiliar. And I'm actually not that crazy about it. But the animal offered it up nonetheless. And so maybe it's up to me to learn how to receive it all. By realizing that there's something about this that kind of transcends my likes and dislikes and calls to something that is a little more higher in me, which is, my ability to not be the master of my taste, or not be mastered by my taste, but to be the master of them. Which is a weird concept, because it's are you saying that I should like certain food and should not like others? Because we tend to enthrone our consumer choices, as the be all and end all. That's the fundamental thing, is our freedom to choose what we want to eat. It's but it's like the difference between freedom and license, right? Yeah, license, you can eat anything, but maybe you could use your ability to choose to actually to refine and grow your tastes and yourself by extension.
Yeah, we think freedom is license, but real freedom is more like liberty. You are liberated
from lesser things,
right?
Yeah,
to enjoy the actual good and the true and the beautiful.
Yeah, and so I see that, and I think Wallace can understand that now. He's going to be 10 in May, and so he tries things that he doesn't like, and he'll work through it.
Yeah, and he is also emulating you too. He sees, my dad likes this, and I kind of look up to my dad. So
yeah,
I think I might try to like this too, which is what you do with a lot of foods.
Yeah,
as you grow older.
Yeah, I can't believe he looks up to me. He's a good boy. So yeah, what is our answer?
Yeah.
To John,
It's
it's a great question, but I think time.
I was just gonna say time.
Patience,
and not forcing it. I wouldn't force it because nothing is ever learned when it's forced.
Right.
They have to discover it on their own.
I think so, and it depends on how old they are. You know, maybe I don't know. Maybe some won't, depending on how conditioned they are. But I think one of the keys, maybe this is a theory I have. And it's a theory born of my experience of watching children watch me slaughter in the presence of their parents. Mm-hmm. So as parents, we tend to err on the side of overprotection and hovering, right? Mm-hmm. And even if they're younger, it's almost like that instinct is greater because particularly with infants, like you need that 110% of the time because they're 100% vulnerable. But as they grow, we kind of have to let go of controlling at least their emotional reactions to things and trying to programatize those to be right. Even if, and I think that's challenging for a parent. And what I see is the kids have this, in general, this beautiful innocence about them. And so their reactions are to the killing, to the death of an animal. It's hard to, you can't like put a value judgment on them. You know, they're organic and they're honest. So I think they're essentially good. And it's very easy as a parent to want to swoop in and be like, oh, no, we don't have to be sad because this is a well-fed animal and we cared for it and now we're starting and now we're going to eat it and this is what we believe in and this is what we're going to do. And it's like, yes, all of that is true.
Yeah.
Of course. But I don't know how effective it is because I think what you end up doing, and being a parent, I happen to know this, is rather than showing them the true, the good, and the beautiful, to which they will be innately attracted, because I think we're all wired for those things, you're kind of accusing a little bit. And I am very guilty of this as a father. You're accusing their initial reaction. And that'll cause shame and that'll cause, in that moment, a greater revulsion from the act. Because what a child feels, they feel 100%. Like their sorrow is bottomless. When Simon breaks a Lego, like the world is over. Yeah. It is the apocalypse. I know. It's bottomless. And so their elation and their joys, lidless, And so when I have swooped in and tried to mitigate or dim or shade the edges or create an emotional reaction that I think is more proper, which maybe it is, I think it backfires ultimately because they're so emotional, they're so bottomless and they're so committed to it instantly because they're still learning how to control themselves. It's more just like if they just see you do the slaughter and maybe, they see it once and they're like, nah, I don't like that. But then they see that you're a loving father and you feed them well and you are still tender towards the other animals that are still there. And I think that they will witness to a degree the full philosophy, the whole picture, rather than just that dark chapter of the death. They'll get the whole story. But I think they have to kind of see that, just see it,
Yeah. And I think part of that is just letting nature do its work too, because at some point they're going to get hungry and they're going to need meat. Like right now it's Lent and there's certain days that we are not eating meat. Yeah. And for the first time, maybe we're taking it more serious. We take it probably more seriously every year, but this year, for me at least, it's like a step up and it's like, oh, I really need meat because I am flesh. And if I'm not feeding that flesh with other flesh, then I feel really deprived and fatigued at the end of the day. Yeah. I feel it. And so I think children at some point, they will get hungry for meat. And if all you have around is good meat, and that's not to say don't have anything that you haven't grown, like be realistic with whatever your situation is. But, they eventually come around. And also, I would say, start light on yourself. Don't just start with like tripe soup or something. Like, go easy. Give them a really good pork chop. That's an easy one. With like a good amount of fat, even that they can choose or not choose, and work your way up from there. Kind of like, you start a baby on milk. You don't start them on something more complex than that. So, like for us, we've even our kids actually love blood sausage now, and it seemed weird to us when they first kept requesting blood sausage. We're like, really? But what happened was we gave them, so it's really good, especially if you're going to actually try blood sausage with other people who've never tried it before. Eat it with a little bit of jam, something sweet, something like a nice fruit jelly.
Spoonful of sugar,
exactly, as it were. Right. And so we would serve the blood sausage with the jam, and they loved it. And then you kind of back off on the jam every time you serve it, a little bit more, until they're just eating more blood sausage with their. It's not blood sausage with their jam anymore. It's jam with their blood sausage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would just say let them come to it on their own in a way. And actually that applies to a lot in parenting. I'm discovering kind of late in my parenting career, but there's a great parenting book I'm reading right now called Parenting with Love and Logic. And I can't remember the author's name right now, but he talks a lot about that. Like they have to, and also we've talked about that, like analogical understanding is allowing someone to do some of the work themselves, and you risk not letting them get it all.
Oh, right, because you're
away.
Not as explicit.
You're not imposing it on them, but letting them come to it on their own, in their own timing, and you just being a guide and kind of talking it over with them, but not over talking it, like just as much as they want you to.
Well, yeah, I feel like in that case, a good rule of thumb is almost when necessary, use words.
Sure.
Right? I mean, there's definitely some times when that is necessary, but maybe not so much in the slaughter and the whole philosophy of eating the meat that you raise and eat and process yourself.
It's kind of our generation that got over-talked to, maybe.
Yeah.
Or like because we didn't grow up with this, so we're obviously on a podcast, we have to talk about these things, but like I'm wondering if maybe our children won't need to quite so much because it was shown, not told. There's something to that, how you learn.
Right, and it's tricky as a parent because you want your kids to understand these things so that they have a good life, so they have a rich life and a full, fully functioning worldview and everything. You want them to have that, but like you say, you have to risk that they will misunderstand so that they can actually apprehend it in a deeper way and make it more their own, and maybe dwell in the place of this is gross for maybe a while, and that's just kind of where they're at. But rather than, no, let me tell you why this is not gross. What is really gross is when they're slaughtered, 1,000 a day in assembly line, covered in feces and blood, and watching it, that kind of explicitness is, it makes them feel bad, I think, feel badly.
It could, yeah.
And
especially if it's
isolated.
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No.
I'm like buzzing because my brain's finally going with this topic. But attaching the acts of killing and eating animals to other more positive things, like let them in the kitchen.
Oh,
I know it's hard. And you just want to kick the buggers out, but like let them in and let them cut something, and you risk they might cut themselves a little bit, but give them a little dull knife and actually let them cut a little bit, and it's gonna get real messy, and they're gonna drop 3/4 of it on the floor. I know, I get it.
It'll take 5 times as long to make dinner.
But let them do it. And then even, invite their friends over or invite your friends over. Like we had friends over last night, and they were like, wow, we're eating duck, I think. And the kids saw our friends. They were like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. And it's just roast duck, nothing that amazing. But I don't know. I think letting the kids experience all of that with the added positive emotional factors of being involved and seeing the community building that happens around it. It's all, like it's letting them taste the sweetness of it,
the fruits,
as well as the bitterness. Yeah.
Because I think it really, they're kind of right. Death is gross.
Yeah.
And we talk so much on this podcast and in the classes about really making a humane kill, right? And all the things that we do, all of the extra steps that we take to ensure that there is not needless pain or harm done. But that is not to say that there is not no pain. Like, there always is. And it is, death hurts every time. Period. That is just true. And it is an incredibly brazen thing for one creature to kill another for food. That is an assertion of a value system that is, it's very bold, right? And it brings with it a great weight of responsibility. And so I think that, you could almost think of the, ew, gross, or I'm too sad to eat this animal. It's sort of like a proto understanding of that reality.
Right, yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I think what we're teaching them is not necessarily, oh, no, this isn't gross.
Right.
But yes,
I know.
It is.
It's like a hug the cactus moment.
This is the cost of our life. So
affirming them.
So what do we do now, right? Like this is how much we value our lives and yours at the cost of this animal's life. But we carry on, right? And we endeavor to deserve the gift of that life. And I think that's a deeper way.
Yeah.
Than just to try to erase the grossness or erase the fear.
Yes, I know.
Explain it away, right? With really good reasons. It's all reasonable. It's all rational, and it is unarguably so much better than anything you can buy at the grocery store. But ultimately, there is still room for that kind of sorrow at the death of an animal.
Yeah. If we want well-rounded human beings in our families, we should let them experience the whole gamut of emotion and
that's why it's always been so tricky to me with at least some vegans and some vegetarians, not to target anyone, but to target some people, that I feel like it is the understandable deception that is the luxury of urbanization, where meat has become divorced from its sentient origins. And I think that leads to another deception, which is that my life has no footprint, if you know, like it has no terrestrial cost. I can exist sort of at no cost to anyone. I am a perfectly harmless entity on the earth.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I am not part of a food chain. Nothing dies because of me.
We don't want to have to feel in debt.
And even if you are a vegan, that is a lie.
Yeah.
That is not true. And I think that it's an unintended consequence of our, incredibly clean parts of our cities and our transit systems and our distribution systems of food and, how quickly we can do things and how cleanly, at least in appearance, that we start to think, as a person, I am no cost on the ledger of being, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. And engaging the cost of your own existence is part of understanding yourself and your responsibilities, I think. Your duty.
This conversation will be continued in a forthcoming Part 2 episode. Thanks for listening, and peace be with you.